and forth with someone last night, and they're like, how do we start this process? And I said, all I need is a few things. I said, actually, these few things could be all I would need in order to do the whole build if you trust me. And that is your favorite neck, if you can give me the 1st and 12th, your string gauge, what type of music you want to play, and what color do you want it. If you give me those things, I'll figure everything else out. But you got to trust me. And normally with trust comes a much cheaper price. In my world, that is. If someone wants a guitar, if you want to just let me build one that I want to build, the price pretty much gets cut in half.
Now that's an interesting concept. I have to learn to charge people more when I realize early on they're going to be picky.
I don't want to do the same thing twice. That's the magic answer, I think. I don't want to do the same thing twice.
Yes. That's why 2 seconds into the first thought of making it a business, it immediately went away, because I don't want some Nimrod coming to me and, I want a Telly. Well, then go to Guitar Center.
Well, I do want to make it a business, but I don't want to build for a customer. I want to build for me. If someone happens to want a guitar from me, I'll sell it to them. That's pretty much the limit of where I'll draw that line. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the last 3 bills I've had were commissions, but in each of those cases, I mean, one of them, the only information I got was she likes turquoise.
Yeah.
I mean, and the current the GGBO build, his favorite color is purple. That is my one and only requirement.
Well, you can deal with that, man. If it's a color issue, that's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. Well, you give me some, some simple restraints, and then I still have free reign to build what I want to build, and incorporate something like that. I never would have thought to go, pink to purple, and this is going to be amazing when I finally get it dyed.
Oh, yeah, it looks great.
So that one little requirement was awesome, because I never would have thought of it, but I still have, free creative reign to do what I want to
do. Which is the requirement, that is what it is all about. That's why I think everyone does this that's really into this like we all are.
Yeah.
It's that creative freedom, Yeah.
I just need something to finance the next build. That's it.
Yeah. I'm quite different, because I really enjoy working with someone else who comes up with an idea, but they don't know how to make it. And I've got to
because you're an artist.
Them work out what it might look like, how we can build it. Because often people just give me a few words, and they realize they don't really know what they mean, and I've got to tease it out of them, and I quite enjoy that.
25 years as a programmer, I am exceptionally used to people not knowing what they're asking for.
28 years as a dad, I'm absolutely down with that philosophy.
Well, I mean, people think they know what they want, and it comes time to actually articulate it, and they
I know.
They
don't possess the mental capacity to relay their thoughts to you.
Most people never put that much thought into the process.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
My favorite ones are always, I think, the ones that we talked about this earlier, like the ones that the customer let me make the decisions, and they were surprised by it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you want it to look like that? Well, what about this? Yeah, no, okay, sure. Like, to me, those are always my favorites. Yeah. When I get to make the most decisions. I guess I'm selfish that way.
One thing I always like about the way I work anyway, which seems similar, is the idea that you're designing it with someone or for someone specifically.
Yeah.
And that's so good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's so in the first episode from last Sunday, it was how instead of just coming up with a design on paper and going, right, I'll build that, it needed to go backwards and forwards. So it was a very digital email backwards and forwards with design ideas, what can get tweaked, and then put that down on paper and work from that.
The people who were contacting you, did they have sort of firm ideas themselves first, or were they just saying we'd love to sort of be involved in?
There was probably 4 or 5 of them that started getting quite detailed. And I was getting to the point my head was exploding, because it's amazing actually how a lot of the designs have very similar themes, which you might expect because it's a worship type, Christian based theme, but actually there's lots of little inroads that's going off, and people were giving me very similar phrased Bible passages to go, can we work from this kind of theme? This is where I want to be. So there was very similar designs going on, and I was getting to the point where I was starting to misthink about which one was needing which one. So I actually contacted everybody and said, look, I'm going to have to just do this one at a time. So you're not going to hear from me for a while, but don't worry, you are there, you're on the list. Let me concentrate on this one. As I'm finished this, I'll get in touch with the next one, and we'll start really kind of thinking and designing that next build.
I made one for my father-in-law. Just said, like, if you buy the stuff, I'll make it. And I found it more stressful making it for someone else. And the next guitar I make with that wood in the corner there is for someone else. And I'm definitely more stressed about that than making it for myself.
It's different when you know someone else is going to use it. I always find that any guitar I've made, I'm slightly anxious when someone else picks it up to play, because I think it can play, but I'm not like a great player. So I'm a bit worried if someone that really knows what they're doing picks it up, if they can play it or not. But then when they tell you, oh, this neck feels great, or I love the sound of it, and if the weight's great, then suddenly you feel like that imposter syndrome is gone. You feel like you've done something that's right.
With the shape and design from my build-off one from last year, that was sort of one of the reasons why he wanted to get one made. And then he said, look, I'd really like a Bigsby, and had an idea for, the pickup that he wanted on it. And then I kind of said, all right, well, these are the timber suppliers that I've kind of used in the past. Have a look, if you want a fancy top like we did, go and have a look yourself, and pick one, and we'll work out a good combination. So we kind of did that together, and then I just kind of went off and built it that way. So that was that one. The other one was the Telecaster that I built for a mate, that was on with the control knobs on the side, sort of the hidden one, and that was just an idea of what he wanted to do, and I was happy to give it a go, because apart from that, it was just a straightforward Telecaster, just with the minimalist approach. So sort of both of those, it's been sort of input of what they sort of wanted, but from the start, I kind of knew that it's something that I could do, rather than kind of saying yes and then getting halfway through and thinking, oh man, I've bitten off more than I can chew.
I mentioned on a previous one of these live streams about the guy that I asked you about, Jack. He came to me and asked, could I think the first stage was, could I customize a guitar for him? And then it was, could I build one for him? And then it was, if he sent me the files, could I CNC it? Which is when I got in contact with you. And then he was like, how much will this cost? And I told him, and he said, could I just stick a vinyl sheet on top of his guitar with the picture on it that he wants? Because that's sort of the budget he had. And then the conversation disappeared.
Yeah, you should have just told him to close his eyes and just imagine what it would look like. That'd be the option.
Funny how many people are on that level. Half of the people that ask me about, having a guitar built, they're, my grandson, he's like 8, and, didn't go to Guitar Center. Don't.
I had this one last year where they even sent me pictures of like a PRS, one of those crazy dragon bursts, and this and that, and this is the guitar they've always wanted. By the end of the conversation, I said, you know what? I think you found the guitar you want. You need to go buy a PRS.